Your self-image controls the results in... Oh, I'm going to have to cut this. Anyways, your self-image controls the results in your life. You will never rise above the image you hold of yourself. What's up, champions? Welcome to another episode of Champion Reads, where we talk about the best-selling books and their best principles to help you out to create your best life. I'm your host, Willie Blake, and I'm here today with our other co-host, Mr. Ian Sturmer, and we're very excited because we get to jump into part 2 of Born Rich by Bob Proctor. It's been such a great book, and Ian, I don't know about... I'd actually love to start out with how you know about Bob Proctor, because Bob Proctor, the first time that I was introduced to him was back in college. We were doing, I think it was just communications. I don't think it was a business communications part, but it was a public speaking communication course, and the teacher brought up 2 individuals and shared these individuals' examples throughout the entire semester. First was Zig Ziglar, and the second was Bob Proctor. And those 2 have just always sat on this pedestal idol for me when it comes to public speaking and when it comes to just going into the psyche of the individual, which is, what we're going to talk about today. But before even that, Ian, do you have a connection to Bob Proctor? Or anything in that way?
Actually, no. Cool. Surprisingly, I had not heard of him until I got really involved with you in Champion Circle, and his name kept coming up. And I thought I need to find out something more about him. I have a tendency to pick 1 or 2 things to focus on, or 1 or 2 people in an area. And I'm learning to expand that, especially through this online book club that we do to find out new things. But my first real experience, other than hearing his name a lot, was my Amazon Audible account had a free book by him. So I listened to that. And if I had known you'd ask that question, I would have looked up the name of it. It was something like a 5 Laws or a 7 Ways or a 12 Things to Do, one of those number books. Yeah. And this is my second book of his. And okay, sacrilege here. At some point, I will watch the movie The Secret. I still haven't. I know that he's heavily involved in this, and I really need to go out and do that. But Bob Proctor really is a new person for me. Other than the last book and now this book that I've read, I'm learning more about what his whole philosophy is. And I think from what I've seen, more than any other author that we've covered in here, he seems to be around a philosophy more than just a principle here and there or an idea or an example, but really a whole way of thinking. To steal from Stephen R. Covey, a whole different paradigm that he uses for his life than what we do. So unlike something we've done like Launch we just recently did, or the Miracle Morning we did a few months ago, that are really nuts and bolts. Here's a checklist of things you do. Do this, then do this, then do this. That's it. This is all in your head that comes out the right way. So I'm excited to kind of get in Bob Proctor's head and see what he's about, and see what that can do for my life.
Yeah. It's amazing that the people who stand out the most are usually the ones who are either so expert in their industry that they just go into it in such depth, or they're the people who are go into this psyche of people, go into the paradigms, the boxes. And speaking of paradigms, we're jumping into one of Bob Proctor's thought beliefs, which is the self-image paradigm, which goes around to that you can't outperform your own beliefs. And that's just powerful in general. Because when I think about you can't outperform your own beliefs, it makes sense. Because if you don't believe you can do something, then why the heck are you going to want to do it? Unless it's you're sitting at the dinner table and your parents are forcing you to eat the Brussels sprouts. Other than that, you can't outperform your own belief. If you don't think you can run a marathon, you're not going to run a marathon. If you don't think that you are able to be financially free, then you're not going to be financially free. And your actions are going to reflect that. But if you believe that you can create a business or believe that you can be a monk or meditate every day, then your actions are going to start reflecting that. And I think it comes down to like the difference between your beliefs and actions. Many people seem to have a disconnect with it, to where they believe something so strongly, so downheartedly, but then when it comes to the action side, it doesn't match right away. I know a lot of people talk about this when it comes to politics. A lot of people talk about it when it comes to religion, but just the overall generalness is you can't outperform your own beliefs. What are your thoughts, Ian?
Yeah, definitely agree with that. I think an example, so I thought of two examples as you were going through that. One is my daughter. So in high school, she was a cheerleader, and she could not get this whole jump up and do a flip and land on your feet thing. She'd do it perfectly on the trampoline, but when she got down to like the mats and things, she couldn't do it. She had the strength, she had the technique, all of that was there. But in her mind, she couldn't do it. The only thing keeping her from doing it was the fact that she thought she couldn't do it. And she'd proven she could do it many times as long as she was on her trampoline. Not even the whole jumping, just standing on the trampoline, she could do it. Yeah, there was a whole fear of falling and that kind of thing. But she was physically capable of doing it. But in her mind, she couldn't. That's all that stopped her from it. I'm going to do a very different example, and this may be apocryphal. I heard this one time. We're going to go with it anyways. Steven Spielberg, when I heard when he was in high school, he wanted to be a director, and he would sneak onto the movie lots and watch people there. And as the story goes, he at one point found an empty trailer that these stars use, and he went somewhere and got a gold star to put on the trailer and some letters for his name, and he wrote Steven Spielberg, director, with a star, and put it on the trailer. And he would go after school onto this movie lot, go into his trailer, probably do his homework, and go out and talk to people and get to know people. He believed what he was. He believed he was a director, even though he wasn't yet. His self-image was Steven Spielberg, director. And he created that long before he was ever able to do anything close to directing. So what you believe you can do sets that path for you. If you don't believe it, you're not going to reach there. Talk to somebody who's looking for a job and look at what their job search is. And you'll see people say, well, I can't have a job that pays that much money. I'm not to that level. And they will look for things lower or higher than where they are, but they look for things that are where their mental self-image is, not where their physical abilities, their skills, any of those things. We go to our self-image first. That's, I think, the strongest factor when we're making decisions about what we're going to do with our life.
I agree. I tried this for those who listen to the news. AI is out there, especially over the last couple of years. AI is out there. One of my favorite things to do is with ChatGPT is to ask it questions that I would ask a friend. And so I went into ChatGPT a couple nights ago, and I asked asked it about, with what you know about me, because I use it a lot and it knows quite a bit about my business and stuff like that. I said, with what you know about me, what is one thing that I might not be seeing that could be getting in the way of my success? And it was crazy what came up, because it came up with, you are so passionate and so energetic to the things that you do that you don't get the systems in place to be able to help you out to move past a certain point. Basically what it came to. So I can do as much as I can, but without having those automated systems to do all the back end stuff, I am limiting myself, or I guess it said potentially limiting myself to reaching more people. And I thought it was interesting because I've never thought about that before. I always think about, as long as you have the energy, the passion, you can go forward and you can help people out. If you have the exercises, the activities, the psychological things you need to be able to help individuals out while coaching, because I do coaching, then everything's fine and everything will work out. But then there's all the nuts and bolts to the things of sending out emails and follow up and putting out PDF stuff like ebooks and that, to scheduling events and social media. Like there's so much more that goes into it, to where if it was automated, then I'd have more time for more people. But because I am not doing that currently, or as well as I should be, that I'm only limited to a certain amount of people with my time. And so I think it's very interesting of what you were saying, Ian, is that you can't go past where you're thinking. You can't go past the beliefs that you have. And you especially can't go past the ones that you can't see. It's the subconscious beliefs when it comes to finance, when it comes to success. What are those subconscious beliefs that we have? Because we were raised by some parents, most of us, and we were raised in a society that thought a certain way. And as we, goodness gracious, I can't even imagine with the society nowadays how much the kids have to go through, because everyone's trying to put things in such black and white type categories, to where really the world's just all shades of gray. We do not promote 50 Shades of Gray on here, just so everyone knows.
49 shades is the most we're going to go to here.
Yeah, for sure. But it's the subconscious beliefs that we've had our entire life. How are they in there? And what can we do to be able to help reprogram our self-image to match the wealth and desire that we have? I know I went on a bunch of thoughts, but yeah, go ahead.
Right, no worries. It's kind of funny you say that, because we are surrounded for hundreds of years with stories and examples of people who break that mold. As you were talking, I was thinking Romeo and Juliet, breaking what they've been taught and told all the time. These stories are everywhere. The heroes who rise from obscurity to accomplish great deeds. But yet we lock ourselves in that, of our own free choice, really. We tell ourselves these things. And I know, I go into a room and I have a certain idea of where I fit into a hierarchy of people as I walk into a room, for lack of a better term there. And I'm, one group I'll go up and I'll feel very confident and talking to, and then the next group I just am afraid to open my mouth, even though it may be the same conversation in both groups. And I think so often we lock ourselves for no real reason into a certain level. And I'm going to use another example that's completely different from that. But way back in high school, I ran cross country, and the same thing. There was like 3 groups of runners on our team. There was the really good runners, there was the mediocre runners, and there was the fun people to hang around with. I'll put it that way. Yeah. And I was kind of in the mediocre group. I hope to be fun someday, but I was, mediocre group for there. We had a race one time, and I was just not in the right frame of mind. Not that I was in a bad mood. I just had no interest in being there, wasn't paying attention. wasn't getting psyched up for it. Matter of fact, when we lined up to start the race, I got about 5 minutes into the race and realized that I still had my sweatshirt over top of my uniform. I had to peel it off and throw it away so I wouldn't get disqualified and go back and find it later on. But my mind wasn't on the race at all. I got to the end and I beat my best time by over a minute, which is a fairly big advancement for a 3-mile race. And that put me time-wise from towards the top of the mediocre to the very bottom of the good runners. And I realized that it wasn't my body holding me back. And in this case, it wasn't even that I wasn't teaching myself the right things or psyching myself up. It's that I just told myself it wouldn't happen. And when I had that one race that I was not thinking at all about it, I did so much better. And from that point on, I was at that level. Every other race, I changed my paradigm, my self-image to be at this level instead. Now, why I wasn't smart enough to move it one more level up is not a whole nother story. But I think that is such a deep subconscious thing that we're able to break through if we take the effort. Whether it's like you did with yours, where you're going into ChatGPT and what is it that's holding back? What do I need to do? Opposite end of the extreme, in my case, where I completely forgot what I was supposed to do and went out and did something and suddenly realized what it was I could do. But in either case, we need to break that paradigm, that image we have of what we can do, what we're supposed to do, and decide what do we want to do and go do it. Oftentimes it's that simple, just do it. I think that's a slogan somewhere out there.
Yeah, some slogan with shoes and athletic stuff, something like that. It's true. It reminds me of I'm gonna jump into anime for a second.
No worries.
One Punch Man. In that anime, it's not like one of the famous ones, but it's pretty popular out there. Storyline is there's One Punch Man. He's just like the super overpowered individual who can basically do everything in one punch to defeat the bosses and monsters. But in the society they have a ranking system to where you have I think it starts with C, like C level heroes, B level, A level, and then S rank level heroes. And it reminded me of it because when we're in the situation of we walk into a room and we feel we're the top dog. We feel like we're the one who knows everyone in there and has the most success. We walk in there confidently. And I've experienced this many times, is that I walk in there confidently. And then I go to another room, just like you said, Ian, to where there might be more successful people, or at least in my head seem like more successful, higher level individuals. Then I tend to hold myself back, even if it's the same conversation. With the ranking of these, it reminds me of they have the levels to where it goes up to the first place in C rank. And then in order to go to B rank, you have to then drop to the very bottom of B rank and work your way up again. For the B and A ranks in the anime, those individuals stay there because they are afraid of if they go to the next rank that they'll be at the bottom of the list. And even though they believe in themselves that they'll be able to quickly level up and rank it, however that system works, they still stay at number one in their level. And it truly holds them back because that's their self-belief. They think if I stay number one where I'm at, to where all my friends I am more successful than my friends, that I am making more money than my friends, that the individuals I talk with every day, every week, that I am better than them, then that brings me self-worth. That helps me believe more in myself that I am doing amazing. To which you might not be. And most of the times you're not, because they stay stagnant. To where the individuals who might not have the greatest of talents, but continue to work hard to where once they get to that to 1-in-1 level, then jump to the next level, but have to start at the bottom and work their way up to a new degree. It can be scary a lot of times. And I know for myself, it's taken me a long time to push past those limiting barriers of I am comfortable, I like where I'm at, to passing them and breaking through into now I'm uncomfortable, but I'm moving forward. And I don't know. It's just a interesting relationship.
Yeah. I think if you're not uncomfortable, you can't be moving forward. You've got to be uncomfortable. And so many people want to be the smartest person in the room, or the richest person in the room, or the highest ranking person in the room. Okay, I admit sometimes I would like that too, but I continually tell myself that I want to be the dumbest person in the room, because that's where I'm going to learn things. I want to surround myself with people that are at a higher level, whether it's their level of education or accomplishment or niceness or whatever it is. I want to surround myself with those people. And I think I wrote down a little thing here, habits versus goals. I heard this one time, I can't say who came up with it, but they were really smart, so I want to be around them. Your goals tell you who you want to be. Your habits tell you who you are. And I think that's a true thing. We have these goals and aspirations, but if we're not setting habits, if we're not taking actions that are moving us that direction, that's not who we really are. And I'm hoping this doesn't sound too ADD as I jump around here, but just now my mind flowed with this idea. We need to set up the habits that are going to take us where we want to be. And Lance Armstrong, when he retired, was asked in an interview what he would miss most about cycling. And he said the practices, not the crowds, the cheering, the awards, the money from it. It was the practice. Because he set a goal or a habit that if he worked his hardest in his practices, everything else would be there. It wasn't the winning that you hear from so many athletes. It was the what he had to do, the physical work behind it. And he was excited about that side of it. I think that's the same thing when we look at our self-image. Yes, we should have an image of ourselves that we want in the future. Where do we want to be? What do we want to be known for? Excuse me. But then we need to go and say, what's going to get us there? What are the actions we can take now? As we begin taking those actions, that's what's going to show us the changes we make. That's what's going to show us the progression, the getting better, and proving to ourselves that in most cases our current self-image is not correct. I think just about everybody is able to do much more than they believe in their own mind. Even the people who are out there boasting all the time probably don't necessarily believe all the things they're saying, and they could be more than what they believe. So that, self-image, it can be a limiting factor. But it can also be a goal you set for yourself. And you can say, okay, what am I going to do differently today? What am I going to do to break one piece of that glass ceiling that I put there for myself? One step at a time. I feel like I'm doing a whole bunch of meaningless platitudes here, but I think there's truth in all of them.
So. You're doing a bunch of TikTok segments, which is great. We'll be able to cut this up and just have a bunch of videos go viral from just the wonderful wisdom you're dropping. It's true. It's absolutely true. One of the best people that I know on this planet in the self-help industry is Tony Robbins. And Tony Robbins says over and over again that coaches need coaches. Tony Robbins has a coach, and seeing him, and probably is the number one coach in the entire world. He has a coach, which if he has a coach and he's doing that great, who am I? Right? Who am I to say that I don't need help, that I don't need a coach, I don't need to not be doing this alone. I should be doing it with more people. I think it was Bob Proctor or someone else who said that you will get money. You will get the money that you want as you help other people get their money. I butcher that so hard, but the more people that you help get money, it'll come back to you, and the more money that you'll be able to get. So serve.
Can I jump in with? I think that's Zig Ziglar. You can achieve anything you want in the world if you help enough other people get what they want. And that's probably not an exact quote, but
closer than mine. Way closer than mine. As we wrap up this episode, and I'm glad that we do several episodes on each of these books, because they really help out with us going into the different things, but specifically with the self-image paradigm, specifically with the thing that you can't outperform your own beliefs. I'd end with this. I'll end with this question. What if you can achieve more than you imagined? We don't limit ourselves with our imagination, because our imagination is infinite. Our imagination is limitless. The only person that could put limits on it is ourselves. And those limits affect our performance. Those limits are our beliefs. So if our beliefs are hit, then it affects our potential. And if our potentials are hit, it hits the action and the habits that we make. And if it affects the habits that we make, then it affects the results. And with those results being affected, then it jumps right back around to the habits and beliefs that we have. And it goes in a downward spiral. So the message I'd leave is, don't limit yourself and your imagination. Believe in yourself. Believe that you can outperform anything that you've done before, and be okay with being uncomfortable, because it's through the uncomfortability that you go through the pain of progress to get the results that you want.
I like that. Now, I had a comic book analogy I was going to use. It sounds a little bit more trivial, but I'm going to say it anyways after what you said. Green Lantern. So Green Lantern has his power ring, which is powered basically by his will. So the stronger his will is in thinking about things, the more powerful the ring is. So the only thing limiting his power is how much he believes he has power. All he has to do is believe a little bit more, and it'll be more powerful. And he knows that because he's trained by ancient aliens all about that. I think in our own life, so much of that is true. We limit ourselves because we haven't done something, because that's something somebody else is able to do, but we're not. And when we stop and look at these things, it can be really foolish sometimes. I had a friend years ago that I was talking to, and we had a mutual friend who was a part owner of a business and sold that business and earned a whole bunch of money from that. And this other friend I talked to said, yeah, once I found out how much money they had, I just had to go to the wife and say, I'm sorry, you have too much money. I can't be friends with you anymore. And I thought, wow, that's dumb. You were friends yesterday. Nothing about this person has changed today except a number on a piece of paper. And now you no longer believe you're worthy to be around this person, or you believe that person is different because of it. That's such a bad way to look at a self-image. Instead, look at what people accomplish, what we can accomplish. I look at people a lot dumber than me who are a lot more successful, and thought if they can do it, I should be able to. I say that jokingly, but we set these limits on ourselves, and that's the only thing stopping us so often, is that we told ourselves we couldn't do it. And if we forget that for a minute, like I did in cross country, suddenly we achieve something more. if we stop and look and say, why did I set these limits and what can push me past it, like you did with your ChatGPT conversation, you can move forward. It's so easy to move past this if we just take that tiny first step and say, I can move past it. Be aware, decide what you want, and take those steps, and don't let that self-image stop you. So in the subtitle here, it says you can't outperform your own beliefs. And I think that's absolutely wrong. I think we outperform our own beliefs all the time as soon as we allow ourselves to. And then our beliefs change. So go break your self-image in a good way.
Yeah, well said. And with that, that wraps up another episode of Champion Reads. If you found inspiration in this, go ahead and subscribe to our podcast. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, Overcast, and all the other awesome major podcasting platforms. As well as you can go to our website at mychampionscircle.com, where you'll find the link to our podcast, link to all of our socials, and everything else going in the Champion Circle universe. Until next time, champions, continue to be the best version of yourself. Continue to be the champion in your life. And always remember that a little bit of action puts you past your self-belief, and then you start believing in yourself more. So believe, take action, and you can't wait to see what's going to happen. We'll see you on the next episode of Champion Reads.